In recent decades, Chinese gangs have also moved into major American cities and have branched out from smuggling opium to smuggling human beings.
Criminals buying up properties across the country to clean their cash. A much-awaited report from the BC government this week reveals that more than $5 billion was laundered through real estate there last year. That's $5 billion in one province in 1 year.
Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about the presence of Chinese gangs all over Canada, but mainly in Vancouver, Toronto, and Calgary. I've gotten many requests for this video, so if there's something else you want me to make a video on in the future, feel free to drop a comment. Now let's get into the video. Chinese gangs are commonly referred to as triads, and actually have very ancient beginnings that I'll get into really soon. The triads typically keep a low profile about their crimes and try to stay out of the spotlight. This is why not much is known about them when compared to the other criminal organizations I've covered in the past. However, this definitely doesn't mean that they aren't active with criminal activities, because that couldn't be further from the truth. The triads are said to have hundreds of thousands of members and make billions of dollars a year, even making big changes to the economies of overseas countries, simply due to how much dirty money they launder into them. Let's get into it. So first off, we'll start with their origins and what they even are to begin with, since they can be pretty confusing. The origins of the Chinese triads can actually be directly traced all the way back to the 1760s when the secret society named the Heaven and Earth Society was founded. Back then, the Fujian province in China was becoming a huge financial zone in China at the time, due to their mining and agriculture. This led to the land prices increasing greatly, meaning that many people living there wouldn't be able to afford it anymore, so they moved to other provinces. The financially struggling people would come together and create mutual aid groups, which would help each of the members out. This is when some of the members would participate in crime to make extra money. Later on, they would go back to Fujian and create a brotherhood named the Heaven and Earth Society to try and overthrow the corrupt government that was controlling Fujian. The group had their own philosophies, hand signals, as well as their own elaborate recruitment rituals. Eventually, the group made enough money off of their crime-related activities to fund their rebellion, which they would later lose. From here, the group started falling apart as most members disbanded. However, many members took the same philosophies, signals, and rituals as the original Heaven and Earth Society, but made new independent groups with them. Each of the groups ran separately, had different names, and no connection with each other, except for all of them carrying the same culture and identity. People joined these new groups for many different reasons, such as wanting money and power, while others desired protection. Over time, the cycle kept repeating, and in 1821, these groups were called the term triads for the very first time, due to triad being a translation of the Chinese term referring to the union of heaven, earth, and humanity. While another theory is that it's a reference to their frequent use of triangle imagery. Due to these groups and their origins being so ancient and secretive, no one really knows for sure. And ever since then, they kept on expanding their criminal empires all over the world. There were reportedly more than 300 triad societies between the years 1914 and 1939, but that number has since fallen to around 50. In modern times, they are essentially separate independent groups, but all have similar cultures and traditions. Currently, there are said to be more than 250,000 members worldwide, with 100,000 being in Hong Kong. And the largest and most powerful triad is said to be the Sun Yuan with over 40,000 members. The triads are known to partake in nearly all forms of crime, such as drug trafficking, counterfeiting, human trafficking, illegal gambling, extortion, contracted killings, and more. The Guangdong province in China is seen as a world's factory due to how many things are produced there. Triads use factories there to produce chemicals, narcotics, and other counterfeit goods to export to other countries and to distribute in their own country as well. These factories seem to be working well for them, since it's estimated that they produce 70% of all of Canada's meth, as well as exporting it to the US, Australia, and other countries as well. Not only that, the Hong Kong port is near a place named the Golden Triangle, which is an area located within multiple countries in Southeast Asia. These areas are known to be one of the largest opium producing areas in the world since the 1950s. With this supply, the triads ship heroin from the Hong Kong port to the Vancouver port, which they turned into the distribution center for the heroin sold all across North America and mainly the United States. It actually got so bad that the US DEA started operating in Vancouver as well to help with the situation. Most of the heroin they ship into Vancouver is meant to later be taken by a second smuggler so that they can import it into the United States and sell it there. Asian heroin is said to account for 80% of the total amount consumed by US addicts. The triads have also expanded their export business into not only drugs, but also people, human organs, guns, and chemicals used to manufacture synthetic drugs as well. According to Toronto Police Intelligence, some triad members provide forged documents and escorts to illegal immigrants from China who want to move to Canada. For their services, they charge a fee of up to $20,000 per person. An Ontario court even sentenced a woman who led a smuggling ring to prison. for sneaking around 1,500 Chinese citizens into Canada between the years 1987 and 1990. These illegal immigrants then typically pay off their debt by working in legal businesses owned by the Triads for as little as $2 per hour. Some have also been involved with some very high-profile kidnappings back home in China, including one of Hong Kong's most notorious gangsters in the 1990s, nicknamed Big Spender, who got his nickname with his huge spending habits, purchasing dozens of high-end cars, and due to his professional gambling career where he would gamble millions of dollars, one time even winning $2 million in a single night in the Philippines. Big Spender and his gang once kidnapped two of Hong Kong's richest businessmen, Walter Kwok and Victor Lee, the son of a billionaire, and held them for ransom. Walter was released less than 24 hours later after his family paid a ransom of $80 million, and Lee was released after $125 million was paid to free him. Big Spender kept $50 million to himself and split the rest amongst his accomplices. This information was to give you a better idea of just how major these guys are and what type of activities they do to make money. But that involves what they do in China, so let's get back into more of the impact they have on Canada. It's clear that these guys make lots of money through various crime-related activities. Earlier, I had mentioned how the Triads own many legal businesses and properties. Now I'll get into that, which actually has a much larger impact on Canada than you might have expected. Now I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the term money laundering, which in simple terms means to clean money that was made illegally by moving it through banks and real businesses, resulting in that money appearing legal so that you can use it to purchase things without getting caught. The Triads do this on a very major level, even to the point where intelligence communities all over the world have started officially calling methods similar to the ones they use as the Vancouver model. As I mentioned earlier, the province in China named Guangdong produces meth, fentanyl, weapons, and more, which they later transport globally through ship or plane through criminally owned shipping companies. In Canada's case, mainly from the Hong Kong port to the Vancouver port. They are sent to the Western Canadian drug dealing networks located in Vancouver and Calgary so that the drugs can be sold. Once the drugs are sold, they clean the money by gambling in casinos in Vancouver, since VIP gamblers can walk into casinos with duffel bags full of dirty cash and turn it into clean money once they win money from the casinos. Since the money earned from a casino is considered legal money, they then send that new legal money into underground banks in Vancouver, which send the money back home to Hong Kong and Guangdong. From there they send the money to shell companies in Panama or the British Virgin Islands. Shell companies are basically companies that only exist legally on paper but have no actual physical offices or employees, rather only holding bank accounts or investments. The money is once again sent back to the underground banks in Vancouver, which is then used to buy high-end real estate properties there, and the money that was left over in Guangdong, China is used to repeat the process once again. Along with this, there's another method they use as well. It's called smurfing. Basically, the Chinese government only allows a citizen to leave the country with a maximum of 50,000 American dollars every year per person. So that means a person known as a Smurf will come to Canada, and once in Canada will get money sent to them by multiple different friends and family members, which will get sent into the Smurf's multiple different bank accounts that they open in Canada. The Chinese government doesn't realize what's happening right away, since they break down the total amount of money they want to move over into smaller pieces. This process is repeated over and over again until the Smurf has enough money for a down payment for a property, which is 35%. This process needs to be used for all money that leaves China, so it doesn't violate any Canadian banking laws. So where the money comes from doesn't matter to Canadian banks, it's all the same to them. Now that we know how the Triads bring money into Canada and what they do with it, let's take a look at just how much money they're bringing in and what effect this has on Canada's economy. In the year 2018 alone, the BC government reported that $5 billion was laundered in real estate, resulting in an increase of house prices by 5% in a single year, and that's just in BC. Over $28.4 billion have been spent by private corporations on homes in the Greater Toronto Area since 2008. Other areas in Canada such as Calgary are being targeted as well. Since these properties are being purchased by private companies, there's no information about who the actual buyers are, allowing them to remain anonymous. A study found that half of Vancouver's most expensive homes have hidden ownership. And something else that's really interesting is that on the list of the top 10 most expensive cities for real estate in the world, Hong Kong, Vancouver, Toronto, as well as 2 cities from Australia are all included, which are all cities that coincidentally have been heavily targeted by the Triads for money laundering. This obviously brings up lots of different problems, such as how the rising housing prices make it hard for Canadians to purchase homes. Not to mention, most people don't want to live next door to a criminal or an unmaintained empty house owned by a criminal, as well as the idea of criminals getting away with their crimes and filling up the city with drug money isn't exactly the ideal situation either. In response to this, the Canadian, Australian, American, and the Chinese government all started cracking down on the Triads starting from 2016, making it harder for them to launder money, as well as arresting tens of thousands of members. But even with all of this effort, the triads are still going strong. I know this video might have been harder to follow than most of my videos, but that just goes to show how complex and organized the triad strategies really are. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and want to see more in the future. It helps out the channel a lot. Thanks for watching and have a good one.